What are catalysts? Name some examples and use bond energy diagrams to explain why catalysts speed up the rate of a chemical reaction. This is a 6-mark question. Okay, so what are catalysts? We just need a definition to start with that we've learned from our core knowledge. Okay, so catalysts are substances that increase or speed up, increase the rate of a reaction. And now the important thing now, without being changed themselves. So they don't affect the chemical reaction in any other way other than increasing the rate of reaction. How do they do this? They do this by providing an alternative route that requires less activation energy. So in other words, for a reaction to occur, two things have got to happen. Number one, particles must collide, and number two, that collision must have enough energy. Okay, what the catalyst does is it makes that collision need less energy, so more collisions, a higher proportion of collisions therefore have enough energy to be successful, and that makes the reaction faster. So let's stick that in a energy level diagram. So we need to be able to draw energy level diagrams quite a lot in chemistry. Okay, so energy level diagrams have on this axis reaction path. So in other words, these are the reactants over here, and the products are over here. Okay, so reactants, let's just say for sake of argument, have this much energy. Okay, and this axis is labelled energy. Okay, let's say this is an exothermic reaction, so the products may have this much energy. They'll have less energy because energy is given out in an exothermic reaction. Now, traditionally, first thing you have to do, well, not traditionally, in every chemical reaction, the first thing you have to do is break bonds. So break bonds requires energy to be put in. So let's set the energy level higher. This is obviously going to be bond breaking. After bonds are broken, we've got all the atoms on their own. They just don't stay like that, so immediately new bonds are made. And then bond making is going to come down here. So this is going to be making from then on in. So that's a energy level diagram for an exothermic reaction. Well, how would a catalyst affect that? The catalyst is going to mean the energy needed to break bonds is going to be reduced. So in other words, the activation energy, that would be the activation energy before, from there to there. That's the activation energy. Activation energy, and that's without catalyst. Okay, now the activation energy with a catalyst will be less, so it's going to be kind of like that much. So notice the energy level of the reactants and the products is still identical. Just now, the activation energy is less. Activation energy with catalyst. And it asks you for some examples of catalysts. So there's literally hundreds of examples of catalysts, but you haven't come across that many in GCSE chemistry, so let's think of a few you've come across in GCSE chemistry. So examples. You've probably come across more than you think, actually. You've got iron in the Haber process. Okay, so the Haber process is nitrogen reacting with hydrogen, 3 hydrogens to be precise, and it's a reversible reaction if you remember. So and that makes 2 ammonia molecules. Now notice there's no iron in that equation, is there? Because iron's a catalyst, so the iron doesn't affect the reactants or the products. So we write up here iron catalyst. Okay, because all the iron does is speed it up. It doesn't change the reactants or the products. So there's one, iron in the Haber process. Cracking, catalytic cracking of long chain hydrocarbons. Cracking of long chain hydrocarbons, that uses a catalyst. Okay, catalyst there was we used in our experiment in our lab, we used broken brick. But you could use broken ceramic pot as well. Broken ceramic or pot, and then that sped up the reaction. You could use, let's think out something different now. Let's think about the fermentation of sugar to produce alcohol. Fermentation of sugar to produce ethanol uses yeast as a catalyst. Yeast is, of course, an enzyme. Yeast, and that's an enzyme. So there's another example of a catalyst. Okay, probably enough there to get 6 marks. All these questions and more on ayleshamhighchemistry.com.